Welcome to another episode of 90 Minutes of Wisdom, a channel dedicated to helping you expand your knowledge and develop a more successful and peaceful mind. My guest today is a certified life coach who uses the modalities of premium nutrition, fitness, and mindset coaching to help her clients transform their bodies, mind, and soul. She holds a world record in swimming, which she achieved at the Pan Am Masters Championships. A true role model for us all. Please welcome to the show, Sara Goggin Young. Welcome, Sara.
Hi, Andrew. It's an honor to be here.
Awesome. I'm excited. Yeah, it's been a while. We met through David, and I saw that wonderful webinar that you did about vision boards.
I loved it. Envision 2021, how to get centered before you place your goals in your vision for what you want to achieve.
Amazing. So important. So good. Focus, clarity, right? The 3 C's. Getting clarity is always the first thing. I always say if you don't plan yourself for where your life is going, somebody else will, right?
Yeah.
You'll end up in somebody else's vision board.
And we don't want that.
No, sometimes not. So yeah, why don't we begin with just asking you, I know you're certified life coach, and telling the audience a little bit about that and how you started with that.
Oh, sure. I'd love to. I was thinking about this morning. So 5.5 years ago, my life dramatically changed, or I changed my life. It was my second rock bottom. Yep. I've had 2. And it was it was leaving my marriage. I left my marriage. I left my community. So I changed location, community. I changed careers, schools, friends, everything. And at that time, I knew that I wanted to be happy, joyous, and free. And if other people had it, I could achieve it. And in order to do that, I needed to go back to my strongest self. My strongest self was when I was surrounded by a team, and when I had a coach, and when I was an athlete. And so I grew up, I was an elite athlete. I had a scholarship to Arizona State swim team. I was team captain. And I wanted to get back to that spot. So I started training again, and I was already partnered with a premium nutrition company that had changed my body and had given me momentum to move my body, and then had given me clarity to be able to change my life and leave a toxic situation. And this company has an elite athletic division. So there's nothing like making a goal and going for it, right? So I wanted to get back to my strongest self. I had a goal of achieving a spot on this team Isogenics. And I knew where I was and where I wanted to be. So I hired a life coach to get me there, because that's what it took. I wanted to go from A to Z and collapse all the obstacles and get there as quickly as possible. So streamlined and organized. Now, how did I achieve all my great goals that I had achieved in my life? Was when I had a coach. So I hired a coach, and I got back to racing after 23 years. I used a vision board. And I went for it. I went for my goals, and I ended up, we had 3 years to qualify for the team. I did it in 12 months, and there's there was 5 criteria that you had to achieve. I achieved all of them, and in doing it, I broke a record for my age group, and I ended up swimming faster than a lot of the younger age groups. I broke a world record at Pan Am Masters, going as fast as I did. Geez, it was 28 years ago that I swam at Arizona State. So it was a phenomenal achievement, because that was an old story that I carried with myself. And if you look at my website, saragogginyoung.com, I have a little snippet movie about my story. I trained fast enough to be in the Olympics at Arizona State, and I blew out my knee. And I came back and swam, and I got my best times. I not only blew out my knee, I almost lost my leg from water skiing. So they told me I wouldn't even be able to swim again. I came back and swam and got my best times, but I never achieved the goals that I wanted to when I was a collegiate athlete. And so that was something that I carried with me, a sense of failure I carried with me that brought on 10 years of addiction after that, coupled with a dysfunctional childhood. Those two things manifested after I didn't achieve my goals. And I had 10 years of addiction and alcoholism that was my first rock bottom. That 17 years ago, I got sober in recovery. So this old story had manifested itself in my life and kind of seeped in and permeated everything I did until my second rock bottom, which was 5 years ago. I hired a coach. I wanted to demolish it. I have my second half of my life. I wanted to get rid of the old self-limiting beliefs and replace them with empowering beliefs. And that's what I did. And in doing that, I was able to achieve my goals and surpass even what I thought I could do.
It's such an amazing story. So it's like super inspiring. And it's so, you touched on so many cool points, but like one is, it's interesting always how, you were so successful and you did so well, but somehow how our mind just naturally goes, like, you felt like a failure, but like, why does the mind not see like all your success and focus on, oh my God, I did all those wonderful steps. It's not your fault that you had, you blew out your knee, that feeling. And I think that that's such an important point, that it's how you feel kind of magnetizes or attracts the other things into your life. So if you feel bad or you feel like a failure, then you start attracting those vibrations or those things into your life, which is so unfair, which is kind of like a default, right, of our mind. It chooses most often, because trying to protect us, but it chooses to look for the danger or the fear instead of the opportunity, the love, and the appreciation, right?
Yes, and that's how we're conditioned, and we're conditioned that way because we keep thinking that way. It's ingrained in us. I never knew there was another way to think until 5.5 years ago, and that's when I started training my mind to think differently, to get rid of the negative internal dialogue. My mind was not a great place to live for 44 years. I just didn't know that there was another way until I did. And when you know better, you do better. And it's all sets and reps. Everything in life is sets and reps. You want something, you have to do it. You have to work for it over and over and over and over again until it becomes a habit, until it becomes ingrained, until all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, my life has changed. I'm now this person. I now think this way. I now feel this way. So it's been an amazing journey. And that's what led me to completely change what I wanted to serve, how I wanted to help other people, because I knew that if I was hurting so bad for so long and then found a way to change it and to change the way I felt internally, in my heart, in my head, then I could share that with other people.
It's beautiful. What's some of the tools that you used? I mean, I know that it's really unique that your understanding of fitness, like you said, which is a great reference, like sets and reps, right? Like, and for most people, a lot of people, they don't understand it. Like anyone that's in amazing physical shape has a very, very strong mind, right? Because it's like you can pick up, okay, like nobody walks into the gym and says, okay, I'm going to bench press like 3 plates. Like, it's just, you kind of start off wherever you start off and you kind of get a little bit stronger and it'll build a little bit more and a little bit more. And it requires lots of discipline. It requires a lot of belief. It requires, as you said, just developing good habits. You develop in and of itself such a strong mindset by getting yourself into shape. And I think it's wonderful that you have that background and then able to take that and then shift that over to, oh, you know what? That actually works for other things, for just mental things, it doesn't just pertain to the physical strength or fitness.
And that's you hit the nail on the head. That's what I had to do. So I relied on my past experiences. Okay. My life, excuse my language, was in the shitter. I mean, everything. I changed everything. And I had the second half of my life, and I had 2 little babies. I had 2 kids, 6 and 8, and I was in charge of them. And I kept going back. I kept going back to actually to high school. I had an amazing coach in high school, an amazing team. And I would think about the process. When I achieved every single goal that I wanted to in swimming, right? Because being an elite athlete was what I knew. It was ingrained in me. I had already conditioned my mindset to be an athlete. I already knew all the steps. I would go back and go and think about the early days of each season. The early days when I was overweight, I was out of shape. It was painful to get in the water. And I think of all the long practices and the long aerobic practices we had and the endurance practices. And then it got shorter. Then we moved from meters to yards. And then you're working on turns and sprinting and racing. And so each step was sets and reps, right? Consistent work every single day that led to the final event, which was whatever meet, nationals, junior nationals, senior nationals, state meet, where I had my goal time on my vision board, and I achieved it. Every single time I achieved it. That euphoria of achieving your goals, it wasn't the 4 laps that I swam backstroke. It wasn't those 4 laps. That's not where the euphoria came. The euphoria came because of all the work, the process that I had done leading up to it. So take that example and plunk it down into this life that I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? I know how I want to feel. I know how I want to operate. I had to come back to the basics. Everything is a process. So I used training physically to start training mentally.
Beautifully said. Yeah, that's it. And it's like the blueprint. So like you were fortunate to already have let's say a blueprint for success, because you'd already done. And I think it's really brilliant that you were able to like think about it, figure it out, and say, okay, when was the best time? When was I most successful? When was I most happy? And then you had that, you had that to pull from, and then to take and say, okay, let me look at the habits I did for that, and then superimpose them onto the rest of my life. But again, it's my, congratulations, Alex. That's easier said than done. A lot of people you look like, I find a lot of, people that I know, they know what the right thing is, or they know they just don't do it, or they don't have the discipline. They get some momentum and they get fired up or motivated, and then they run, and then it fades away. And like as you said, it's those habits and that continuous mindset, and then and then the why, right? Like, why are you doing it? What's important, And if you know your why, that's what drives you, right? Like, not to quit. Otherwise, if you don't have a strong why, a strong reason, you'll fade away, right? You'll be like day 1, day 2, then day 7, 8. You're like, I'm just gonna eat some fast food and lie on the couch and watch Friends all day. I don't know, So, what are you working on? What's your focus right now?
My focus right now is I'm getting focused on my niche in who I am reaching out to. So I'm really dialing it down, my why. I'm really dialing down my why, right? And in doing so, we have, and I'm going to go back a little bit to your question. You're right. We all know what we should do. And the question is, why don't we? Because guess what? We're all wired to press the easy button. We have to get over that. I want to press the easy button. I don't want to get up at 4:30 and jump into a cold pool. Absolutely not. But I know how I feel after. And I also know that to keep me accountable, I had to hire a coach. I need someone by my side. I need someone to give me a plan. And I relied on past experiences, and also I needed a community of people. So that's what I built. I built a community of people. I built a community of women and men with my nutritional company to keep us accountable. And every month we do challenges, and we have a challenge coming up March 8th, March Madness. That's a combination of fitness, nutrition, and mindset work with a whole group of coaches, and we put it on in our Facebook group, and it's amazing, and people are accountable, and they have a plan, and they're given recipes, and it's fun and inviting, and there's prizes, and it's a whole team atmosphere because we do more for a team than we'd ever do for ourselves alone. And so I have that coming up March 8th. I also am working right now with a small intimate group. We're halfway through. We're just moved over the halfway part of reclaiming your inner badass. And that will wind up, that will end in March, and I'll be opening up my new Zoom coaching group towards the end of April or early May. So I'm really excited about the success, about the way people are feeling. Every single person that's in the group is lit up and loves it. And the other thing I'm doing is I have two things. Because of the pandemic, I'm starting this week a mindset and movement course for teenagers, for middle school and high schoolers, to give them tools, their Power to Believe toolbox, so that when they get knocked out of alignment, they can get back on. And they're tools and strategies that helped me transform my life. And so I'm excited to share those.
Yeah. Well, look, without giving too much away, I was going to ask you that question before. What are some of the, tools that you use? Yeah, and I know coaching is definitely one of them, and I know that, isogenics, I also, big fan of isogenics, and I use the products every single day, and fantastic. And so many great people. Everyone I've met, I've had a lot of guests, from isogenics, people that are involved in that, and they're all wonderful people. And I think, so and again, it's to narrow it down because like you're an expert in fitness and in nutrition, right? And in mindset. So it's like, well, I guess there's different, like, it's kind of difficult to ask you a blanket, it's how do you fix, what are the tools? I guess there's a unique toolbox for each one, right? So like, for physical fitness, for nutrition, and then, for mindset. But maybe want to address just without giving too much away, some of the tools that you would use or recommend for people when, no matter where they are, they can start using those tools to get like maybe a little bit 1% better or better tomorrow.
Sure. Breath, the power of breath. I use breath. So exactly, there's so many things that I can help people with. The fitness part, I actually partnered with 5 collegiate athletes. And so I can pair people with another trainer to do that, so I can focus on the mindset. And that is what really lights me up. And that is where I want to reach people. And one of the big tools is breath. And we have it. It's it's easily accessible. It's right here. You just got to slow down. And I teach the Goddess and God breath, which is 7 deep breaths that allows you to let go. It allows you to, whatever emotion is gripping on, instead of being caught in that emotion, by pausing and breathing, you can let go of that emotion and you can realign yourself. So the power of breath is huge.
Mm. Yeah, I'm a big believer in that too. I used to do kung fu and tai chi,
Hmm.
and and tai chi, it's like so much is amazing. You start learning the different breath work. But in a more general way, whenever let's say you're anxious, you can see what's your breath, what's your breathing like, right? When you start getting stressed, you're breathing faster, more shallow, right? So like just by calming it down or slowing down, so there's like box breathing, and I think it's 4-4-4, and then the other one where it's like you breathe in for 4 seconds and out for 8, that kind of thing too. It's just like that works really well, and just slowly slow it down, slow everything down. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that can be done with breath.
And those emotions are low vibing emotions, right? Whenever anxiety comes up, or overwhelm, fear, jealousy, resentment, it doesn't feel good in your body. And so by breathing, by doing those breaths, the long, deep breaths, your body, think of those emotions like little ping pong balls, and they kind of bounce against each other. You got overwhelmed, and now you're anxious, and now you're thinking of something, and you're resentful, and they stack and stack and stack and build and build and build. With your breath, it allows those little ping pong balls to dissipate and move away. And you give yourself time to then let go. And you can see you're out of your head, because that's where we get in the most trouble, is in our head. And so the tools that I use allow you to get out of your head and into your heart. And that's where we're the most strongest and the most productive. And breath is always available to us. So when we don't feel bad, you're just what you said, take notice of your body. How do you feel? And can you slow down your breath?
Yeah, there's so much to it. It's such a simple thing. Everyone breathes, but it's like meditation. When everyone says, "Well, how do I meditate? I don't know how. I can't do it. I tried. It's hard." It's just it's madness. And I even made a video on it to try to help people 3 different ways to meditate. But really, it's just your breath, right? It's just like if you just focus on your breath, that's
Yeah,
it. It's basically it's as simple as that. And then the other thing is,
I saw that video. I loved it.
thank you.